Hello, JBlue here to continue my story motorcycling through Vietnam. Hey, it's JBlue here, continuing my story of my motorcycle trip through Vietnam. So, starting on my second day out from Ho Chi Minh City, continuing motorcycling, I left the little small town of La Gi, which is just a crossroads town, kind of in the middle of nowhere. When I woke up in the morning, I left my hotel, went across the street, and saw this little house. Basically, it was someone's house that was had a little restaurant, and it was really busy, and they were selling pho. Which is a classic Vietnamese dish. So I got some pho breakfast, went back, loaded up my my motorcycle, and took off. Now, one thing that's great about Vietnam is that because everyone rides motorcycles, all the hotels provide some sort of indoor parking, whether that's a garage on the side of the building that's locked up or guarded, or you can just pull it directly into the lobby. So that makes it very convenient and also really safe to ensure that your bike is there in the morning when you wake up. But I got on my bike and I continued down the coastal roads. Now, one thing that I was very adamant about on this trip was specifically just to go motorcycling. There was really no other purpose other than just to ride and have an adventure. And so one thing I adamantly wanted to avoid was the major highways and thoroughfares, but rather stick to the back roads. The major highway, the major coastal highway is called, I believe, QL1A. It's the busiest highway in Vietnam. It's just loaded with trucks and cars and motorcycles. And I didn't really want to do that. Plus it's a little bit further inland, and so it doesn't really ride along the coast. And so for me, I wanted to stick to the small 2-lane roads that just hugged the coastline and gave some spectacular views along the trip. So I started off probably about 10 o'clock in the morning, and my first destination was a temple that was maybe about 20 kilometers outside of the small town I was staying at. Turns out it was this beautiful little temple, but to get there I had to take some really rugged dirt roads, lots of mud and ruts, like heavy ruts. So the road was a little precarious, but I finally got there, and it turned out to be this really beautiful temple decorated with these really ornate elephant statues, painted in all different colors. They're really, really cool. Something to keep in mind, however, when you visit temples, these are holy sites. So you must be respectful of the culture there. It is recommended that you wear pants. They will not allow you to take photos inside the temples. So you can take photos outside the temples, but just be respectful of that. There are signs that say no photography. So I stayed at that temple for about 20-30 minutes, looked around, took a few photos, kind of tried to soak it in. Then got back on my bike and started riding along the coast again. My plan for that day was just to simply ride along the coast, stop at some beaches, soak in the views and get some sun. But Vietnam is a tropical country and the sun is very strong. I continued to get burnt day after day riding the motorcycle because I'm riding from like 9 or 10 in the morning until like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, so peak sunlight. I applied more sunscreen on my face and my arms than I have in probably 10 years on this trip. I continued along the coast. I found a really cool kind of peninsula with a lighthouse on it. Stopped there, took some photos. There's some really cool rock formations. It was just, really beautiful locations. Unfortunately, being a developed country, a lot of the beaches, they do have a good amount of trash on them, whether that's trash from people leaving it on the beach or trash is being washed in from the ocean. It's hard to say. I would probably guess more of the latter. But yeah, that day I rode what was going to be one of my shortest days. It was only about 100 kilometers, riding along some really pretty coastal roads, seeing some quaint little towns and some really cute little beaches. It was just a nice, peaceful, relaxing day. I knew that I was going to stop in this little town called Pan Thiet. You'll have to excuse my Vietnamese. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But that little town has a beachfront community called Doi Dong Beach. It's kind of a port town, so it's actually really pretty. It's on the water. As you're riding through the city, There's a big bay with a lot of fishing boats, really beautiful multicolored fishing boats. And then there's a little beach strip, which is cute, kind of underdeveloped little beach strip with some hotels and restaurants and shops all along it. I stopped at a hotel, parked my bike, decided to go for a walk, which is only about 1 block down to the waterfront park, which is a nice little waterfront park. There's a lot of families out listening to music. They bring their own karaoke machines and have a picnic and sing karaoke at the park, drink beer. It looks pretty fun, to be honest. And then I went to the beach. I didn't go swimming. The water didn't look that clean. There was a good amount of trash on the beach, but there was people swimming. Decided not to go swimming. We just walked around, got some food from a couple little vendors, some snacks and whatever. And I decided before the day was over, I would go for a ride to a really cool ancient temple, or some towers there. So about 20 kilometers outside of town, there's these Shiva temple towers that are about 1,000 years old. They're on the top of a little small mountain, which gives you some really cool panoramic views of the coast and the city. The towers themselves are pretty impressive, pretty old. They've been doing some reconstruction work on them to fix them up, but they're really cool red sandstone colors, which I really liked. And then past the temples, there was actually a military fortification left over from the Vietnam War. And so you could hike up a little bit further up the mountain, and there were a bunch of pillboxes and bunkers that were buried into the ground, a little observation tower. And if you went into the pillboxes, you would see like little just machine gun slits that were overlooking the coast and the bay area and like the harbor or port area. So that was pretty cool to see some of that. But what was really interesting is after I left there, I continued on to another little beach town that was maybe another 15, 20 kilometers up the road, so pretty close. This little beach town was called Thim, and riding through it, you would almost immediately think that you were in a resort town in a Western country or USA. It seemed like a lot of the little beach towns I've been through before, whether that's Panama City or Fort Myers, Florida, or Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It was pretty well developed, lots of modern resorts, big hotels, but it had that beach strip feel. Foreigners walking around in bikinis, a lot of little beach stores selling, beach equipment and towels and souvenirs, and cute little sidewalk cafes, restaurants and bars. And I was really surprised at how different this part of this little beach town looked compared to like everywhere else I had been thus far in Vietnam. Again, it had a very Western, touristy resort town feel, and it was quite odd, to be honest, riding through that. It just felt so different from everything else. But it was getting close to dinner time, and I was really hungry, and I was just looking for somewhere to eat on the beach. I got really, really lucky, and I found this place called Boca Mr. Crab, which is more of like a local seafood restaurant right on the beach. I went inside and I was looking through their menu, and I noticed they had some pretty interesting things. One of them was grilled cobra, and I was like, ooh, let me try the grilled cobra. They're like, oh, we're out of it right now. We'll have some more delivered tonight, which I'm not quite sure if that was probably a lie. But it was, I ended up getting some really good food. I got some like scallops or mussels, some sort of Vietnamese shrimp spring rolls and a couple other dishes. Drank some beer and just really enjoyed myself with this beautiful, relaxing view on the beach. And the surprising thing was, 3 or 4 dishes and maybe 2 or 3 beers, I think I spent $5 US. So I got out of there with a great deal, great food, great location. Was super, super happy about it. On the way back, there is a really cool little vista, kind of cliffside beach that's between the beach resort town that I was at and then the town that I was actually staying. It's a really beautiful little rocky promenade. There's a parking area and like an overlook area, and then you can hike down to the beach, and then there's like a little rocky peninsula that leads out into the water. Really, really cool. I don't remember what it was called. I'm looking at what it's called right now on the computer and I can't pronounce it. Ba Da Ong Ja. I don't know. Again, Vietnamese is a difficult language. But it was really cool, and again, it was right beside some really high-end resorts and golf clubs that I just was really surprised to see that there. So as it was getting dark, I rode back into the small town that I was at, got back to my hotel, and decided to walk around and see what was going on at night. But it was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday night. There wasn't really much going on in that little area. I got on my motorcycle and drove around a little bit, and that's when I realized that both my headlights and my taillights were gone. So I didn't really feel comfortable driving around at night with no headlights and no taillights in a city. So I decided to pack it in. I just went back to the hotel, parked the bike, got a couple beers, went to my room, and just relaxed for the evening. It was a really exciting day, good adventure. I got to see a Buddhist temple and then a temple dedicated to Shiva. So yeah, it was a great little day of just riding along the coast. I knew that the next day was going to be a really big ride. I was going to ride along the coast and then ride up into the mountains. So that's why I tried to take it easy on the second day. Make sure you check out the description below for links to all the things that I did on that day. You'll find some of those to be pretty informative, hopefully. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. Really appreciate any comments or feedback that you guys give us. And look forward to another chapter in this Vietnam adventure coming up in a couple weeks. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.